the next one here. So what I've done next was I just kind of want to give a quick overview. We'll start at the statutes of large. How do laws become law? And bottom line is that we have Congress does their deal, President signs it. So I went into the statutes of large. This information is available through the web. It's a lot of digging, but I just wanted to kind of show you real quick a few things. If you hit on that chapter 1, statutes of large 1, acts of the first Congress, 1789. So this is what our Congress and our President has done since day one. The very first law that was passed in this nation, an act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths. So before they could do their job, they had to raise that right hand. First law that was passed in this nation by our general government after the Constitution came into being. All right, the second law, what do they need to do now? They need to raise cash. Law number 2 was an act for laying duties on goods, wares, and merchandise imported into the United States. What did Madison say? General government handles foreign commerce. Duties. So the second law, in order to get cash to fund this government, this is the second law that they passed. So go through that, and if you look, if you phrase on down, they go through. All other distilled spirits per gallon, 8 cents. On boots per pair, 50 cents. So they identify exactly on a pair of boots what you got to pay. Alcohol, what you got to pay. So that goes through. The third law that they passed was on tonnage. What's tonnage? Ships. As we're transporting all these goods back and forth, general government has authority over this transport, so we can, any ships that come into our harbors, we can tax them based on the tonnage of that ship. So that was the very first one. The acts of the 5th Congress, 1798. If you go back, close this, and then go to the second line. Chapter 75. Right. Okay, what this does is identifies a constitutional direct tax. So in the 5th Congress, 1798, we'll look and it says an act to lay and collect a direct tax within the United States. And then what do? To the state of New Hampshire, $77,705.36 and 2 mills. Based on enumeration, they went to all 13 states and said, here's what you owe of this $2 million in revenue that we're trying to collect. So that was a constitutional direct tax, 1798, early history of our country. So, goes out of that.
Aaron, see that where they actually went down to each first state?
And I can make this available, and I plan to, that you can, and the links are in there if anybody wants to study it. I'm going to be trying to go through it relatively quick, just from a time perspective. One, I don't know, and I get long-winded at times, so I'm just trying to kind of do a history. But, you know, it will be made available. Tom wants it, and he's got it on his computer now, basically, and he can post it wherever he wants.
I can send it out in an email.
And how we do it. I'll skip over real statutes at large number 12, the acts of the 37th Congress. What this was, 1862. Anybody know what was going on about 1862? Civil War. That was the first income tax that was actually implemented. All the laws that were, I mean, you go back, we suspended habeas corpus, we declared martial law. The Civil War was a turbulent time in this history. It has, you know, I've studied a lot of Civil War documentation and got my own opinions one way or the other, but I'm not going to go there. But it was a very turbulent time. First income tax was put in. The laws were revoked after that time frame. So now then, 1862, we're going through the Industrial Revolution. Basically, we've got all this stuff. We've got your Rockefellers, we've got your Morgans, we've got your Carnegies, we've got your Millets. We've got all these individuals that are making major dollars. We have the Progressive Era. Starts off with Progressive Era. Mary Elizabeth Lease. You have all these farmers. People are settling west. They are moving west. We've got this huge landmass. We've got farmers that are out there. Farmers grow commodities, general goods. They're not general goods. They grow commodities. Farmers, it goes back to the South. Cotton shipped over to England. England processes, ships back finished goods over here. So they're all having to take their commodities, buy imported goods. What's on the imported goods? Tariffs. Tariffs are on there, so they're saying, look, we're the ones that are paying all the taxes, going to the general government. These guys that are receiving the benefits of government, the J.P. Morgans, the Rockefellers, are not paying any tax for their support of the government. Where's that? J.P. Morgan. He was asked on all his interest in South America. He said, Mr. Morgan, how do you protect all your interest in South America? Morgan's response, that's what I have the Navy for. So he assumed that that basically the government dollars were protecting his interest. The folks got fed up. What did they want? They wanted an income tax. Mary Elizabeth Lease raised less corn and more hail. They were fed up. And they said, we've got all these dollars over here, we want an income tax. So the people said, tax JP and his boy John D, where they say in tax me. So that's where this started. And you have to look back on how the process came about. So that brought us up to the time of 1894. And I'm going to try to kind of speed up a little bit. There's a lot of research here. It takes time. I recommend it. I'd love to see everybody get into it like I've gotten into it for the last 4 years. If you do take good notes, file your stuff good, because I've got stuff that is all over the place and you can get lost. And if you're going to spend the time, start off in an organized fashion. So let's go to 1894. 1894 was the income tax was reimposed. And what it did was it said that, okay, we got it, by every citizen of the United States, whether residing at home or abroad, and every person residing therein. So in 1894, an income tax was imposed on all persons within the United States. We had the Pollock decision. 1896, Pollock came and sued Farmers Loan and Trust. Farmers Loan and Trust had to withhold the income tax on Pollock. And that was the way the statute was written, that the folks that had control of the money had to withhold it, send the government their portion. Some are withholding today, right? So Fuller, if you're looking on this link here will take you directly to, you don't have to go to it, but I've linked the Pollock case. It is an excellent history of taxation in America. Written by the Supreme Court, it's just an excellent history. So if you like your history, it's a good one. But as an individual, Pollock sued Farmers Loan to stop them from paying the income tax on his income derived from stock and bond gains. That was where the income came from. Farmers was responsible withholding agent made liable to pay the tax under the statute. Pollock's argument was that a direct, unapportioned tax was repugnant to the Constitution, as the income tax was a class of direct tax on property and therefore unapportioned, per the requirements of the Constitution. The court agreed that the tax was a direct, unapportioned tax on property and therefore unconstitutional. So Pollock the Pollock decision said you can't tax direct income. So we go through that process and we hit, in 1909, this is prior to the 16th Amendment. The 16th Amendment was issued in 1913. 1909, let me back up. In his dissent, Justice Story argued that the income tax was not in the class of direct tax, but should be classified under duties, impost, and excises, and subject to the rule of uniformity. An indirect tax. That's what Justice Story argued. If it's an indirect tax, you don't have to pay it, right? You can make the decision to involve yourself with that activity or that privilege. And if you don't involve yourself with that activity or that privilege, you won't pay it, right? If I'm beer, I don't want to pay the tax on beer, I don't buy it. I don't want to have a direct or have an income tax. I don't involve myself with that activity. So, 1909, every corporation, joint stock company, or association organized for profit and having a capital stock represented by shares in every insurance company, now or hereafter organized under the laws of the United States or in any state or territory of the United States, or under the acts of Congress applicable to Alaska or the District of Columbia, or now hereafter organized under the laws of, or hereafter organized under the laws of any foreign country and engaged in business in any state or territory of the United States or in Alaska or the District of Columbia, shall be subject to pay annually a special excise tax, excise indirect, with respect to the carrying on or doing business of such corporation. So what is the general government saying? Where we have authority, Washington, D.C., states, foreign commerce, we're going to implement an excise tax, an indirect tax on the people. So, the 1909 statute is referenced regarding income as clarification for cases coming to the court after passage of the 16th Amendment. I was told that I had too much information and I was going to go over it. I should have listened a little better. I watched that sucker and I was like, man,
I liked it.
he knew what he was talking about.
We didn't start till 10:15, so run it up to
Oh, okay.
quarter to or 10:02. You're doing
Wait,
it